Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. BigBig WON sent me their latest controller to check out, the Elitist S, compatible with Windows, Android, and Nintendo Switch. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we'll jump right into the unboxing. On the front of the box, it says a multi-platform game controller for Switch, Windows, and Android. On the top right-hand corner, it says GYROCON Plus technology, customizable back buttons, and next speed wireless technology. The only one I really understand here is the customizable back buttons. On the back of the box, it says Switch support remote activation. This is really huge. Not a lot of third-party controllers out there allow you to wake up the Switch. This is one feature I'm really looking forward to. The bottom of the box says next speed technology achieves instant wireless connection. It's got a large capacity battery with over 30 hours of gameplay. More realistic gaming experience equipped with a 6-axis gyro of GYROCON Plus technology. And it also highlights again the back buttons that are fully customizable. Taking a look inside the box, and we can see the controller, a dongle, a cable, and an instruction manual. Something to note here, included with this is a 12-month warranty, and this is something you shouldn't forget about. If you run into issues with the controller, it's covered for up to a year, so if it breaks, it might be under warranty. The included cable is long and it does feel very well built, but it is micro USB, and that's a little unfortunate. I would have preferred a USB-C. The 2.4 GHz wireless dongle does have BigBig WON branding on it, and this dongle is optional because the controller is Bluetooth. The controller here reminds me quite a bit of the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This controller has a really nice soft touch. It's a coated plastic. The top of the controller features a fairly recessed micro USB port. There's a button there for pairing, and it also features L1, L2, R1, and R2 buttons. These are not triggers, they are all bumpers. The bottom of the controller features indicator lights as well as a weird switch. Flipping the switch on the back, and I realized it's not a switch at all. It's a latch and it removes the back panel. I don't really understand the design choice here. This is weird. It takes off the back two buttons. On the top left, I can see a pinhole, which I'm assuming is some sort of reset button. And there's no slot in here for the dongle. That was my second guess. Maybe the back pops off and you can tuck in the dongle. But you can't. This is a really weird design choice and one that I don't really like. Other than that, on the back of the controller are those two back buttons, and you can see the labeling here where it says pair switch, pair Windows 10. I kind of like that, so you're not left guessing on how to pair this controller with different systems. Here's a better look at the top buttons, and you can see what I mean about the triggers. It's either on or it's off, so if you're racing, it's either full throttle or nothing at all. There is no in between. I was pleasantly surprised with the D-pad. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. You can press it down in the center and still completely pivot it around. This is a nice D-pad. The joysticks are smooth, but I'm not the biggest fan of how deep the center cap is here. There's a ridge on the sides and it wasn't that comfortable for me to use. I mean, some people might like that style of joystick, it just wasn't for me. On the face of the controller, there's also a screenshot button, a home button, a start and select button. And these buttons here, the Y, X, B, and A, they were very firm and very clicky. Some people might like them and some people might not. And this button right here is the function button, which serves a bunch of different purposes. You can change the vibration, you can change macros. Yes, this controller has macros. You can change turbo, you can even change the mapping of the back buttons with this. The back bumper buttons feel really nice to use. The controller is comfortable to hold. The back two trigger buttons on the very top, the back bumpers rather, they do have a sharp grip, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But overall, this controller feels very solidly built. If you twist this around, it doesn't creak, it doesn't groan, it doesn't feel like it's going to break. Pairing this controller to the Switch in Bluetooth mode was straightforward. It's the exact same way you'd pair any other controller to the Switch. And here's what happens when I try to wake up the Switch after the controller has already been paired. It repairs to the Switch and automatically wakes it up. This is awesome. What a great feature. Testing out the latency on this controller in a completely unscientific manner, and it's very similar to the Joy-Cons. This is very responsive and very quick. Now these face buttons, they're not the smoothest. They're a little bit hard to press in, a little bit stiff. They have a big travel distance as well. Some people might not like this, some people might like this. It's probably just a matter of personal preference. I talked about the D-pad just a minute ago, and here it is in action. I had no issue executing moves on this. I had no issue with the control of the D-pad. It's actually a very usable and very decent D-pad, better than a lot of third-party controllers out there, and definitely better than the Switch Pro controller. Now, testing out the gyroscope on this controller, and I was actually blown away by it. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's better than 8-Bit Do's gyroscope. It doesn't really go off center here, and you can see how sensitive it is. I'm barely moving this controller, and the response is very nice. I would say it's close to being on par with the Joy-Cons. For the other systems here, I tested the Elitist out on my PC in wired mode and using the wireless 2.4 GHz dongle. I noticed no issues at all. It was really nice. I tested it out on Android on my Google Pixel 5, and I did notice a few issues here. There was a little bit of a delay, and sometimes buttons would either not register or they would stick. So for example, if I was playing Horizon Chase and I pressed the throttle button, sometimes the throttle would stick for a few seconds after I took my finger off the button. And that's not really a good thing. So I did run into some issues on my Android phone. So let's get into what I liked and what I didn't like about the Elitist S, and we'll start out with what I didn't like. The first thing I didn't like about this controller was this switch here to remove the back panel. I don't really understand the point to it, and it's kind of annoying. The next thing I didn't like are these back buttons here. They say they're curved for better response, but they do have a bit of a point, and I found my fingers rubbing those points quite often, and it wasn't very comfortable. Next up, I wasn't the biggest fan of these joysticks. The joysticks are responsive, I just didn't like the rubber grips on them. I didn't like how stiff the face buttons are on this controller either. I don't really like that this is micro USB. I would have preferred a USB-C, and I don't like that there is no compartment here to store the dongle when you're not using it. Now moving on to things I liked about this controller, and there are a few of them here. First and foremost, the D-pad on this controller is very good. They did a great job with it. I also like the fact that you can wake up your Switch with this controller. You don't have to worry about repairing it every single time. You just press the home button once it's been paired and it wakes up the Switch. That is an amazing feature. I also really like the gyroscope function on my Nintendo Switch. It was accurate and very impressive. This function button is also very handy. I can change the vibration on the controller on the fly. I can increase it, I can decrease it, or I can turn it off. I can assign turbo to buttons. I can assign macros using this as well. And lastly, with this button, you can remap the back buttons on the controller, all on the fly. That is very handy. The Elitist S is available on Amazon for $47.99 in the States, and it looks like there's also a 5% off coupon. This is a little bit over $20 cheaper than something like the Switch Pro controller. So for $47.99, do I recommend the Elitist S? And the answer is yes for the Nintendo Switch. If you're looking for a controller with a good gyroscope and D-pad and battery life and connectivity, I mean, it can wake up the Nintendo Switch. Something that has macros and turbo and assignable back paddles, then this might be something to check out. I think on Android and PC there are some better options out there. I really think this controller is geared toward the Switch. On top of that, it is $20 cheaper than the Pro controller. It doesn't have all the features of the Pro controller, but this also has features that the Pro controller doesn't have. But anyways, that is all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts on the BigBig WON Elitist S in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.